Better now. Hold up. Technical difficulties. Okay, there we go. Alright, well, after that little bit of technical problems on my end, which I gotta apologize for, of course, but I'm very happy now to welcome you all here to Austin, Texas for round 1 of Season 4 here in Group 2 of LSR. So we got a full grid here today, which is very exciting and should provide some really great racing as we go throughout this afternoon or evening, wherever you're at. I'm happy to be your host and commentator for tonight, because I'm vacant, of course, making a bit of a comeback from commentating last season. Just a solo job today, but should make it more interesting and keep me on my toes, which is very nice. And of course, this is round 1 here in Group 2, so very much looking forward to that as we see James in the Aston Martin at the head of this front train of 3 cars as everybody starts coming out of the pit lane to start their first laps of qualifying. I do want to take a second before we get going to thank everybody who has subscribed up to this point, as just earlier today we did hit 100 subscribers. So thank you for all for that, your support on that front. It's a very awesome milestone to hit, and hope you'll stick with us to continue to enjoy some of this racing. As yellow flag there, it's an Alfa Romeo spun already out of Turn 1. I expect that's not the last time we'll see that either in qualifying or in race conditions, as Omega is actually out. I don't know if he got disqualified or if he just got loose got loose under power there, but he's already out. So it's been less than 3 minutes into this qualifying session, and we already have a car out of qualifying. But we'll stay on board with James to ride a lap here of Coda, of course, the Aston Martin, first to complete a qualifying lap in this 4th season of Group 2 running. Of course, number 19, Turn 1, that uphill braking zone tightens a lot on exit there, so you got to be very careful. And you got the sweeping Turn 2. This is an area where I suspect we'll see a lot of invalidations and track warnings limits. Of course, James taking that very nicely through this S's section. Turn 8 and 9 is definitely somewhere where you got to be very careful getting on the power, as that little crest the car will get very light, so you need plenty of rear wing there to keep the car solid. And of course, you got the run down here into Turn 10 before this long back straight. Of course, it kind of climbs up the hill. And this is where we're going to be able to tell who's running what kind of setups, because you may have cars running a little bit lower downforce for this section of the track. But of course, speeds of up to 200 miles an hour in qualifying, but probably closer to 190 in race conditions as you run down into turns number 11. Then you have kind of 2 double apex corners here of 12 and 13, and then the double left of 14 and 15, before this triple right-hander coming up, inspired by Istanbul Park. Of course, again, another place where it's very easy to just not have quite enough rear end. Of course, you are flat out through here, but still have to be careful at making sure you place your car exactly right for these final 2 corners. Of course, these final 2 corners coming back onto the pit straight to end the lap, and so for James to set the first lap of qualifying, he will set a 1:34.9. Zukost behind, potentially getting away a little bit in the way of that Mercedes, potentially just taking 2 laps, but neither Zukost nor the Mercedes behind him, who I believe is Viperize, setting lap times. That is correct, as Viperize is already invalidated, I think, going wide down at the final corner. Of course, Viperize kind of expressing a little bit of annoyance there in chat, I think, with Zukost probably making a mistake earlier on in that lap. So disappointing, but of course we still have about 13 minutes left to go as Oreo Hafrican sets a 136.2 and Fiery Vulcan in for Alpine with a 136.6, but Kevin Cow goes straight to the top. Up 6/10 clear of James for Mercedes with a 134.3, so a very solid lap time from the Mercedes driver. Yellow flag in Sector 3, that's a Haas spun. Again, at that triple right-hander, so that's Dodaligo for Haas, who has spun. Coming to line, the other Alpine of Bamboo Vegas goes to the top. Again, another 4/10 clear, so pretty big gaps early on here at the top. As I believe we have a Red Bull coming to the line next, as yellow flag is for a McLaren down in the kind of middle of Sector 2, down at turns 8 and 9. Speedy Gunner starts his lap, so the two Red Bulls, of course, starting their laps now. Yellow flag in Sector 2 for an Alpine. That's just giving way on that back straight. Of course, here's Zukas trying to get out of the way of that Ferrari, I believe, of Crooner, who's coming to the line now. Of course, Crooner up there with Bamboo Vegas and probably Kevin Calla is probably going to be some of our top contenders to the championship. As Crooner just slightly back of Bamboo Vegas. He will go second and has a purple Sector 3, but that 134.0 just not quite good enough for provisional pole as it stands. Of course, you got a couple of cars on laps. Let's see if I can find one for us to watch. I got Fiery Vulcan, I believe, just on an in-lap for Alpine, just taking it a little bit wide there. Formula Jonah, I believe, is the Aston Martin on track, coming to the end of his lap. The owner there, no, it actually appears to be just starting his lap for the Aston Martin team. As he does set at 134.9, so just slightly behind his Aston Martin teammate. That Aston Martin team definitely going to be a team to watch for Constructors' Honors. So definitely keep your eye on those cars throughout the races. I believe the Red Bulls will be the next across the line. Who will be first? It is going to be Alexis first to the line. He will go fourth fastest, so beats both those Aston Martins out to jump up the order. So 134.8, so very solid, but still a decent gap between him and the front runners. I believe his teammate making a mistake earlier on in his lap. And nobody else on laps right now except for Formula Jonah, so we'll jump on board as cars beginning to come out of the pit lane for their laps. Actually, no, Formula Jonah's on his in-lap now. So a couple of drivers just coming out. In terms of favorites, I think especially coming back from Season 3 of Group 2, the two drivers to really watch are going to be Bamboo Vegas and Crooner. Of course, Crooner being our reigning champion here in Group 2, with Crooner coming in second. And so, there should be some very solid racing. Of course, Kevin is new to Group 2 for this fourth season, so he's certainly not going to be somebody to write off because he's shown some very solid pace in both our Group 1 and Group 2 testings. He could very much be in some battles for wins, as we see from the Jonah coming in with nobody on a lap right now. Should be very interesting, especially in this race conditions. Of course, we got 28 laps, and if you are looking to see a little bit more racing, definitely would be worth your while to go give our Group 1 a shot. Group 1 race here at COTA yesterday, a bit of a look as we see Alexis Beast coming around into the pit lane here for Red Bull. Just slightly out of gas, almost misses that entry, but able to cut it back. But yeah, just out of fuel there, as we have the first couple of cars coming out to set their laps. Dodaligo will be first for Haas, so looking to get a time on the board. But as I was saying, if you want to see a little bit more racing, our premier division of Group 1 runs on Saturdays, so if you want to jump over to that live tab on our channel page, you'll be able to go and watch that race just immediately after this one, so as long as you don't mind. Of course, that was a very good race. I'm lucky to participate in that division, but very chaotic. And so, a good bit of incidents, but it also could be a preview of what we're going to see here in Group 2, as we see Dodaligo breaking. But yeah, it should be a very exciting season in Group 2, just based on some of these times. It should be a good battle up at the front of the pack, as well as a pretty solid tight midfield, as P4 through P7 as of right now, separated by less than 2/10, and of course other drivers looking to definitely improve with 10 cars not yet to set a lap, as Dodaligo certainly up on his first lap time through those first two sectors, as Viperize does have rear wing damage, which he may have gotten from the incident on his first lap with Zukost, or just on the way back to the pit lane. So that's something to watch out for, as he may struggle to get a competitive lap time on the board, but could also very much have a charge through the field later, as Dodaligo coming out of the final corner and coming up to the line now. He will go 9th quickest. I believe it's a Williams coming to the line next. Who was that? That was Mayhem Tomorrow, who invalidated his lap. as I believe the AlphaTauri behind him of Kendricks did the same. But Fedora for Ferrari goes 10th quickest, so he'll slot in right behind the Haas of Dodoligo, with Zukost also invalidating his lap again. So certainly a bit of a struggle for that McLaren, for the McLaren car there. As I believe that was Kevin Cal who just came to the line there, only slightly improved by just under a tenth of a second, but just closed that gap slightly to the front two, and still with one run to go with 7:22 left in qualifying. Of course, Crooner seems to be just starting his lap now, so we'll definitely have to keep an eye on the Ferrari driver coming up the hill into turn one. Of course, very important that you get very tight to that first turn, because it very much sets up these next couple of corners. Of course, here through 3, 4, and 5, you really don't, and then you very much want to go single file as you come through turn 7, and then you got 8 and 9 in those final two corners. Very important to be careful on the throttle and then just pin it as soon as you get out, as we do see Crooner has invalidated that lap, so the Ferrari driver will not improve on that first lap time. Looking down the order a little bit, Kev Prod for Haas jumps up into P5, so sorry for missing that happening a little bit earlier, as we do a Speedy Gunner in Red Bull on a lap at the moment. Of course, sitting 20th. Viperize, of course, has that rear wing damage, so he may be struggling a little bit to get a competitive lap time, as I believe that was Kendricks putting in a 136.0 for AlphaTauri, which puts him 16th for the moment, as we should see drivers continuing to put more and more competitive lap times on the board as Zukos comes to the line, only 16th quickest with a 137.9, so likely a mistake for the McLaren driver. Of course, sadly, didn't get to see Omega in qualifying, as he just seemed to get too throttle happy out of turn 1 on his first outlap. I believe that yellow flag is for a Ferrari that's just run out of fuel on his in-lap, so just something to keep in mind. But yeah, it should be very interesting. Of course, we're still waiting for Mayhem Tomorrow, Viperize, and Speedy Gunner to all get lap times on the board here with just under 5.5 minutes of qualifying. And as I say that, Speedy Gunner goes 12th fastest for Red Bull. So decent starting position as it stands right now for the Red Bull, though of course he's going to be looking to get closer to his teammate of Alexis Beast in that number 45 car. You can see most cars pulling into the pits now. Zukos 4/10 down. Let's see, is anybody on a lap? Viperize is, I believe, on an out lap. Though perhaps, let's see if he dives into the pits here. He will stay out, so he'll likely be going for a lap now. As you can see, ERS has been turned on, DRS wide open. So Viperize is going to be certainly chasing after a solid lap time to jump up from P20. Let's see, we got Kendricks coming to the line here. He will improve one spot up to 14th, so it's an AlphaTauri 13-14 at the moment. But it's still Bamboo Vegas on provisional pole position for Alpine, with Crooner in the Ferrari just close behind. So certainly something to watch. Of course, going to be very interesting to, in race conditions, see who has decided to go for what strategies. We see Kendricks keeping well off the track there. So I'll have to stay out of the way of the Haas driver as well, who's coming through the S's now. Of course, as we can see, drivers choosing to come out a little bit earlier than they might as we approach 4 minutes. So, of course, one run left to go here in qualifying. As a Ferrari going very slow just to make sure he's out of the way of that Red Bull. Of course, Mayhem Tomorrow out on the mediums, which is certainly a little bit of an interesting choice, so perhaps struggling with tire wear on those socks, but that's certainly an interesting choice from the Williams. So of course this year the tire choice rule no longer in effect, so it's certainly going to be interesting to see what the Williams driver is thinking with that choice. Certainly there's got to be some reason to that, but for the life of me I just can't quite think of it right now, as James I missed, jumping up into 3rd place, improving by about 0.8 on his first lap, as Viperize from Mercedes jumps up into 2nd. So this front of the pack getting very much tighter. So there's 2 drivers jumping well up from their first times, as Kevin Cal can only improve by about less than 10th and stays P5. I believe it's an Alpine coming to the line next. That would be Fiery Vulcan, I believe. Or no, that would be a Williams. So I believe that was that was Fiery Vulcan coming, but I don't believe he improved. Let's see who will be next to the line. Next to the line would be the Alexis Beast of Red Bull. The Red Bull of Alexis Beast looked to be up in those first two sectors. Can he improve from P6 right now as he comes to the line? He needed to improve by about 6/10, and he did not improve by a significant enough margin. So Ferrari to the line next. But Fedora starting a lap, as is the Alpine, I believe, of Fiery Vulcan, who at best did not improve on that lap. Let's see, the Aston Martin of James, who of course made that jump up into 4th place, just coming through that triple right-hander out of fuel there. Let's see, Williams here of Jim coming through, who is also out of fuel, I believe. Who appears to be out of fuel. We're going to have to wait and see if he's just going to keep even that car ready to go, as that Williams will be looking to start a lap now, so he'll be looking to improve further up into the top 10 as the Mercedes of Kevin Cal, up a quarter of a second on his first lap time, so very competitive from Kevin Cal as he comes up to the final corner now. Can the Mercedes improve from 5th? It at least appeared to be that he could, and he does go to the top by 0.02 of a second. It is Kevin Cal up at the front of the pack, so he holds provisional pole position now with just under about, I believe it was a minute and a half left in qualifying, and separating that top 3 is 0.05 of a second, so very close up at the top between Kevin, Bamboo, and Viper Eyes. Of course, Viper Eyes retiring in the pit lane, not thinking he's going to improve, but certainly very, very tight up there at the front, trying to figure out who's coming to the line next. I believe it is one of the two Ferraris. It is Bud Fedora, who jumps from 16 up to 6, improving by 1.1 by 1.1 seconds. Alfa Romeo coming to the line next. I believe that's Zersity coming to the line next. That's just starting a lap for Alfa Romeo with 40 seconds left to go in qualifying, and I believe that is Crooner just behind him. So of course we're going to have to keep an eye on that pairing, see how far they can get up the order. Of course, Bamboo Vegas just behind, starting a lap as well, so it's going to be important to keep an eye on those cars. But Dodaligo there without a front wing, going to have to stay out of the way of that Williams with his teammate Kev Prod coming to the line now. 134.8, so still sits 8th at the moment. We're going to have to see if that car if he is going to be able to go again, as Crooner, I believe, goes 4th fastest. Or no, that was not Crooner going 4th fastest, but I believe there was a little bit of a change there. Let's see. Mercedes coming to the line. I believe the next car to the line will be one of the two McLaren cars, and that will be Oreo Haffergan, who will pull into the pit lane. Let's see. As Jim retires from the session, so Williams driver not able to improve. Formula Jonah 0.3 up on his first lap time, currently sits 10th, comes around the final 2 corners and is invalidated, so he will not improve from 10th, but he was 0.6 up, which would put him much further up the order than that P10 slot. Zukos to the line next. He will only start 18th. He will start 18th. I believe that's an Alpine looks to be next coming to the line. Who is that? That is Fiery Vulcan coming to the line ahead of Crooner and Zersity. So it'll be Vulcan to the line first. Where can the Alpine driver get to as qualifying is now over? He will sit 17th. Zersity moves up to 10th. Where can Crooner go? Crooner takes provisional pole by almost 0.3 of a second from Kevin Cal, so he steals it away. Can Bamboo Vegas improve? He can! And he goes into the 133.4s, so Bamboo Vegas, with that last little sprint at the end, able to steal pole position from both Crooner and Kevin, and will sit on pole here for the U.S. Grand Prix at Austin, unless Kev Prod can do anything about it. Starting from 9th, no, he has invalidated, so he will not improve from 9th. Of course, you got the second Ferrari of Bud Fedora there, just kind of getting out of the way. So T34 should be last across the line here with a competitive lap time. Can he improve from P15? So where will the AlphaTauri driver finish? He will not improve and will start P15. So it will be Bamboo Vegas here on pole for round 1 here at Austin, as we do see Fedora here just kind of struggling to get around these last couple of corners, possibly with just a little tire wear. But after that, we'll be able to look at the entire grid. But certainly going to be very interesting, very strong showings from the Mercedes and Ferrari outfits up there at the front. But it should be a very interesting race here around Austin, as of course we do have Bamboo Vegas pretty clear at the front by about 0.3 with that final lap. But it is Bamboo Vegas in Crooner, so it will be a French front row Alpine against Ferrari. You got Kevin Cal qualifying in P3 and will be starting next to Viperize, so full Mercedes second row. James will be starting 5th with Jim in 6th. Fedora in 7th will be the second of the 2 Ferraris, followed by Lexus Beast, Kevprod Xercity, Formula Jonah in 11th, Oreo, Dodoligo Speedy Gunner, T34, Kendricks, Fiery Vulcan Zukost, Mayhem Tomorrow, and of course you got Omega at the back there with just that unlucky incident at turn 1 as Viperize. Very proud of his lap there. Of course, it's a very solid lap, getting down just into the 133s, getting himself a very nice start here for round 1. And of course, Austin, going to be very interesting to see how all these drivers take turn 1, as there was loads of incidents at turn 1 here yesterday in Group 1. So going to be very interesting to see how drivers take it after potentially watching that incident. Of course, the exit of turn 1 tightening up very much as you exit out of that corner. So it's going to be very interesting to see how all these drivers choose to attack this race. Of course, we're going to be looking at a lot of one-stops. Potentially somebody could be very, very ambitious and look for a 2-stop, but expect a bunch of medium to hard or hard to medium one-stops. But it should make for a very, very interesting race, not only on pace, but also on strategy as we look throughout the field. So as we get down here, I'll leave you. We'll, of course, have Alex Jacques, or Jacques, I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce it, as to commentate the Formation Lap, as we do run Formation Lap here on broadcast mode. So as we'll look at the strategies here,
the Formation Lap gets
of course,
underway.
tires able to last a very long time, but mediums throughout most of the whole grid. Very few drivers going for alternate strategies. Only Dodoligo and Mayhem Tomorrow on the hard tires. And Kendricks down in P16 for AlphaTauri. They're on the softs as we look at the predicted stop strategy from AWS. Of course, that will give you an idea of the tire strategies. Of course, that one-stop strategy will be inverted for those 2 hard tire runners. We'll be hoping for later for a safety car at about the mid to late point in the race. As we can see, the front 2 of the grid pulling up to their grid slots. With the silver arrows just behind them. It's going to be very interesting to see how we get started here in Group 2 with Round 1 here of Season 4 here in Austin, Texas. Pull up to the grid now. Looks to be all good as there's the predicted pit stop strategy from AWS again. Of course, there's 3, 4, and 5 lights. And we are underway here in Austin in Group 2, and it seems to be a good getaway for each of the 2 at the front, and it's already an incident. The 2 leaders crash into each other at the start, and it's Kevin Cal and Viperize taking the lead. And we've already got a virtual safety car. What happened between the Ferrari and the Alpine off the start? Because it just seemed to be chaos. And what is the Alfa Romeo doing if Omega just drives straight into the back of everybody, and it's penalties all the way up and down the grid? But chaos here on lap 1. Of course, Crooner already out of this race, as I don't know, I have no idea what happened down at turn 1, but somebody just seemed to completely lose the back end there, but absolute chaos there on lap 1, and it is the Silver Arrows who will win out from that. But Bamboo Vegas all the way to the back. I have no idea what Omega was doing. Perhaps he didn't know there was a virtual safety car or something, but just drove into the back of seemingly everybody, as well as his teammate Xercity and James both receiving penalties. Just to take a look at what those penalties are briefly. But that was certainly very confusing thing, is that's 5-second penalties for all of them, which I guess luckily will be able to be served in the pit lane, as Alexis Beast getting a little bit aggressive on the Aston Martin as we go back to green flag conditions, but it will be Kevin leading for Mercedes. Here on lap 1 is Kevprod and Alexis Beast go side by side. They're going to look around the outside into this double left-hander now. Of course, that Haas going to have potentially a slightly better exit and just does get squeezed out wide by Alexis Beast, and his teammate Speedy Gunner will take advantage. Of course, the Haas looking back up the inside there as yellow flags. That is a spun McLaren of Oreo African, as Alexis Beast also looking to get past James there, so potentially goes well to the outside as James will dive into the pit lane now, as does Bud Fedora, so potentially front wing damage for both of those drivers, but it's now becoming a Mercedes versus Red Bull as Kevin Cal leads here on lap number 1 as Omega gets a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane, so his day just goes from bad to worse. Bamboo Vegas also dives into the pit lane to change the front wing, so lots of damage all up and down the grid from those lap 1 incidents, but a lot of drivers really lucky to get out of turn 1 as Kevin leads now through the S's, 8/10 back to his teammate, and then 2 seconds back to Alexis Beats as T34 and Mayhem Tomorrow battle through the S's now. That's the Williams getting the better of the Haas for now. Of course, he's going to have to continue to defend now as Kendrick and Zersity also swap places. Zersity taking a peek of the inside here into this slight hairpin as a Haas of Dodolio has spun there in Sector 2. But of course, up the order, Jim looking to make a move now on Kev Prod. 2/10 separating the two drivers. Look at the Williams down the inside. Will he make the double move of overtaking both Kev and Speedy? He will make that move, stick up the inside. Of course, Speedy looking back up the inside into this double right-hander. He's going to be squeezed tight to that apex, but of course Jim will retain the inside for this double left-hander. Speedy with a dive up the inside, so brilliant little move there from the Red Bull. Very daring as a three-way battle for P4 continues. Of course, Jim going to be looking to make another move there, but it will be Speedy Gunner holding that advantage for the moment. I also don't know what's up with the timing screen. Let me see if I can fix that briefly. That is certainly very confusing. I don't know why Speedy has that strange time, but as Alexis B sets the fastest lap of the race, he is 2.4 seconds back of the Mercedes duo as T34 is able to overtake Fiery Vulcan out of that last corner, and they're going to be battling up into turn 1. The Alpine looking back up the inside of the Alpha Tauri and will make the move up into P11, but goes well too deep, and T34 is able to get him back on the switchback and take that position. As timing screens have fixed themselves, but it is Kevin Cal leading now from Viper Eyes, of course, by just under a second. So we have a war of silver here up at the front. So, well, this day couldn't have gone any better for these two cars. Of course, Mercedes going to be looking to continue to stretch that advantage over Lexus Beast, whether that's just giving each other a tow. Hopefully there's not a Rosberg-Hamilton at Spain incident here. Though it would be certainly very interesting for a commentator's curses. Viper is not quite able to make a move there yet. Jim going to be looking down the inside of Speedy Gunner again, and is going to make that move right now as Formula Jonah able to overtake Zersity. But, of course, Speedy looking for that cutback, but the Williams will continue to hold. Already low on ERS, though, is that Williams driver, as is the Red Bull. So they're both going to be struggling, as up the inside goes Speedy Gunner, but there's a lot of contact there, and will Kev Prod be the winner out of this, as he will go look to go around the outside of the Red Bull. Oh, and Speedy Gunner looked to go into the back of Jim there. I'm not sure entirely what happened, but Jim with damage now after that bit of chaos, and now that everybody's going to be scrambling to pick up positions, as Jim will dive into the pit lane. But I don't know what happened there, but it looked like Speedy made contact with the back of... It looked like Speedy made contact with the back of Jim's car and just pushed him out into one of the other drivers. But the big winners there are Kendricks and Formula Jonah, who move up into P4 and 5. So a bit more chaos there. So not entirely sure what happened. But again, just another good happening for the Mercedes driver, as Omega does spin there in Sector 3 as James sets the fastest lap for Aston Martin, as he will overtake Jim, who's just now coming out of the pit lane. So, of course, Jim going to be looking to recover there, but that'll certainly be something that goes to the stewards. Not fully sure what happened there, just because the camera angle wasn't great, but Kevin Cal, over the past lap, has increased his lead to about 2 seconds, as Mayhem Tomorrow is able to overtake Fiery Vulcan a little bit down the order and move up into the points. Looking at Zersity, under threat now from KevProd, the Haas with DRS wide open at the back, but seemingly not quite going to make a move. Will he make a look to the inside? No, he'll think better of it, but potentially look to make a move here on the exit, though not quite, as we see some of the first 3-second time penalties starting to roll in here, as the Haas looking around the outside now. Will he, well, of course not able to make the move stick there, but going to potentially look around the outside, but he's going to be all over the back of Zersity as this continues. Of course, Alexis Beast close to within a second now of Viper Eyes. The very close battles all up and down the order, and of course, don't write off Bamboo Vegas necessarily just yet. Of course, the Alpine caught up on that lap 1 incident. The Haas looking to the inside there, not quite able to make the move stick, but it'll be interesting to see if DRS can help at all. You got Formula Jonah looking to make a move here on turn 1. Takes a peek up that inside, but doesn't quite put it there. Mayhem Tomorrow as well, up into P9, so solid driving from that Williams car. He moves up into 9th position ahead of Zukost. So those hard tires potentially coming into good form now. So that'll be certainly be something interesting to see as Speedy Gunner once again pits. What tires is he going to? Is that a front wing change? That will be for the Red Bull. As yellow flag in sector 1 for the Haas car. That is Dodaligo with another spin there. So certainly going to be frustrating from him. Looking a bit down the order, we're going to be looking at Alexis Beast as he continues to try to chase down Viperize now. So shades of Max Verstappen versus Hamilton and Bottas over recent years as Zukost able to get Fiery Vulcan and move up into 10th position, of course, as they battle down the long back straight. But the Alpine still with DRS wide open, so he's going to be looking to re-overtake him. He will make that move stick for now, but of course the McLaren with the inside line, a little bit of contact there, a little bit of wheel banging, but it is Vulcan with the advantage, even if he has that 3-second time penalty. Of course, Jonah still on the back of Kendrick, so a lot of close battling out here, but definitely good to see a fair amount of close battling here. As we come through the triple apex now, that is a spun Alpine. That is a spun Alpine of Fiery Vulcan, just as I say that. So that's where the commentator's curse will strike. So, of course, going to be frustrating for that Alpine driver as he's going to have to recover now from P12 after fighting for that last of the point-scoring positions, as we are on lap 6 now. But we do have Alexis Beast continuing to try to chase down that Mercedes of Viperize. 3/4 of a second separating the two as the McLarens swap places a little bit down the order, as does Zersity. Looks to go down the inside of Kevprot up into turn 2 as they continue to battle. So Zersity cutting that corner a little bit. So this battle continuing to rage. And now T34 is starting to join the battle. So this will become a 3-way fight for P6. But it looks like Viperize is running a little bit more downforce than Alexis Beast, who's just not quite able to close up to that Mercedes car in order to gain the advantage of DRS down this long back straight. As they blast down here now, very close battle between Kendricks and Formula Jonah, 3.5 tenths separating the two. Will the Aston Martin be able to make the move now? Of course, here he comes with DRS wide open. He's going to take that look to the inside now. Of course, hard braking down here as Formula Jonah is ahead down into the braking zone, but will the AlphaTauri look to make a move back? He will not quite have the space, and it will be the Aston Martin retaining the advantage and moving up into P4. So very solid recovery from the Jonah as Kevprot and T34 now battling, as it will be the AlphaTauri driver now gaining the advantage here into this double left-hander. So the AlphaTauri moves up into P7 and will now possibly be making a run on Zersity for position as Jim and Dodaligo swap places a little bit further down the order. But it's Alexis Beast closing very nicely now, 6 tenths separating him from Viperize in the Mercedes. So if he can stay close, potentially will have the advantage of DRS. It goes a little bit deep there at turn 1, so he's going to lose some time there. But it's certainly going to be interesting to see if he has DRS down that back straight as Zukost and Oreo Hafrican swap places. And that's because Oreo Hafrican is spun, so potentially collision of McLarens there at the final corner, or just getting too ambitious on the power leads to Oreo Hafrican dropping back into P12. So again, work cut out for that McLaren driver, potentially with a little bit of scuff damage there visible on the side pod, but certainly going to be something to keep an eye on. As back up at the front, it does seem that at Red Bull does have DRS now, so here comes Alexis Beast. This is the first real chance he's going to have on Viperize here on lap number 7. Of course, Viperize defending right to the inside, comes back to the racing line, so defends well. And Alexis Beast not quite able to overtake for the moment, but that's going to be a battle to keep an eye on. Zersity and T34 battle back down the back straight now, is that AlphaTauri is going to look to the inside, but not quite going to have the space to make the move work, and is going to have to tuck right back into line and try to make a move as they continue here into Sector 3. So that Alfa Romeo defending very nicely and fairly aggressively as well, but seems to be keeping it nicely within the limits of racing here, as we have had this nice now 3-way battle for 6 for the last couple of laps as we begin lap number 8. Of course, going to be looking back up to this battle at the front again. here comes Alexis Beast. He'll be, again, just seems to be carrying more downforce than the Mercedes of Viperize, who's been able to stay nicely ahead down these couple of long straights. But of course, it's Kevin Cow taking the lead on lap 1 after that incident between Crooner and Bamboo Vegas, who is on the front row of the grid. Just didn't seem to quite be caught by the in-game cameras. That has promoted him, and he's led since the ending of that virtual safety car on lap 1 as Oreo Hafferton dives into the pit lane to change tires and potentially fix some of the damage on his car. Of course, Alexis Beast, once again within DRS, it's about 5 or 6 tenths separating the two. Taking a look at ERS, it's about half full for the Red Bull of Alexis Beast, but much less full for the Mercedes of Viperize, sitting at only about 17%, but seems to be doing nicely to still be able to defend, even with limited use of that overtake button. Of course, looking at Xercity, looking to make a move again on T34. So here they come now, T34 looking down the inside, but again, just not quite able to make that move stick. As T34, was that contact with KevProd potentially, or was that just losing the back end kind of out of nowhere there for the AlphaTauri? But now it's going to be down to KevProd again as that battle starts to break up a little bit. Yellow flag in Sector 2. That is Alexis Beast. Alexis Beast has spun in the chase down of Viperize and now could be threatened here by Formula Jonah as also the Mercedes of Viperize spun. So potentially some contact on Viperize just waiting up. Very polite from the Mercedes driver to yield that position if that was a collision there. But again, just everything seems to be going right for Kevin right now up at the front, and Formula Jonah now can join this battle for P2 and P3. So that's another three-way battle that is now forming here. So going to be something that's very interesting to watch. But it seemed that Alexis Beast and Viperize just had some sort of an incident down at that triple right-hander that is very much inspired by the Istanbul Park circuit. But that'll certainly, again, just be something else for the stewards to have a look at, and is definitely something that was very interesting. But it's now Kevin Cow by 12.5 seconds over Alexis Beast with the edge. And now here comes Formula Jonah on Viperize. That Aston Martin going to be looking to make the move as he's tucked into the slipstream. The Speedy Gunner will retire into the pit lane. Just nothing seemed to go right for him in this race, so certainly going to be disappointing for the Red Bull driver. Certainly we'll hope to see him next weekend in Bahrain, but certainly going to be disappointing for him as that yellow flag will remain up in Sector 3 for the moment, but just for that AI pulling back out of the pit lane to retire. But coming back up into the front as Bamboo Vegas is able to overtake Fedora down that back straight as the Alpine going to be looking to continue to try and recover, just potentially with a lot of damage to the bodywork of the car as this battle for second continues. But yeah, Kevin Cow just seemed qualified third and certainly seemed to have the potential to battle in this race. But certainly going to be interesting to watch as Speedy had an incident with Jim at some point, so that's certainly going to be something to look at for the stewards as Mayhem tomorrow and Kendricks swap places. That's Kendricks diving into the pit lane to swap off those soft tires. Of course, I believe he was the only one to start on the soft compound tires, so we'll have to see what kind of lap times he can put in on those hards. Of course, this three-way battle for second is going to continue to rage on as Xercity and KevProd battling once again. So we've got two battles to try and keep an eye on, as well as Zukost and Vulcan battling for P9. Of course, going up to the front, that's a very wide line there from Alexis Beast, so potentially just getting a little bit loose on the power and potentially being compromised down the back straight, but 3.5 tenths. So that Red Bull seeming to be running a lot lower downforce than some of these other cars as Viperize and Formula Jonah seem to be battling as Jonah looks to the inside there. The Mercedes looking to the inside of Alexis Beast and is going to make that move stick for the moment. Will Alexis Beast look to put it back up the inside? He will. Will the Mercedes be able to hold position as they continue to battle here into Sector 3? Mercedes now has the inside line through this left-hander, but of course he'll have a much slower exit. But Alexis Beast goes very wide, but looks to maybe overtake off the track, but just wanted to give space as he does run wide there and will lose positions to both Viperize and Formula Jonah. So it's Viperize in P2 with Formula Jonah now third, and Alexis Beast down to 4th, but certainly this fight is not over yet, as Zercity still holding back Kevprod, and T34, again, just in the background there, and that AlphaTauri, as we saw earlier, just looking to potentially sneak back into this fight. Of course, you got Vulcan, Zukost, and James all fighting over P9 now. Is that McLaren running a little bit wide, so the Aston Martin going to be looking to go up the inside into the final corner. Can he make that move stick on exit here? Of course, both will have DRS, and it is the Aston Martin moving up into the last of the podium places. Of course, penalties are something to consider here, as I'll switch back over to tires so we get an idea. But of course, not everybody has pit yet, but some of those medium tires are certainly going to be getting worn as we get closer here. But it is about 14 and a half seconds separating Kevin Cal from his teammate. So Kevin just going to be looking to run away and just fall into that race management mode at this point. Of course, only the one virtual safety car earlier, so certainly worth considering fuel usage, as we can see. Formula Jonah really low here on ERS. Will that leave him vulnerable to the Red Bull of Alexis Beast? Not quite, as he'll just stay towards the back there, as we do have the three-way battle for P5 going on right now, as Zercity just seeming to hold that slight advantage over the Haas of Kedprod for now. But that'll be it for the moment, as James moves up into P9 down the long back straight. He's going to be looking to the inside of Fiery Vulcan. Will he be able to make that move stick? It is Vulcan for the moment. But it seems that through that corner, James has a slight edge. Can he make the move work around the outside now? Going to be pinning that Alpine to the inside. As this battle goes wheel to wheel, James with about a 2-length advantage, and will move up into P9. Of course, after having to pit early on in this race with a little bit of front wing damage, but going to be looking to make as much back as he can, as our first pitter from racing conditions is going to be Kevprod for Haas. So he'll try to potentially get a nice little undercut of Zercity. It'll be interesting to see what tires the Haas driver goes onto as we ride on board into the pit lane. Let's see what happens here. He will swap onto hard compound tires, potentially just looking to pull a long stint. It'll be interesting to see where he'll come out. It looks like just behind either Jim or Bamboo, as he could battle here into turn 1. It will be Bamboo Vegas with the advantage there, as he'll be looking to get those hard tires right into the operating condition that he'll want them. But of course, Formula Jonah, Viperize, and Alexis Beast continuing to battle, as Zukost now receives a penalty. A little bit loose there on exit from Alexis Beast. But as they battle down the back straight, DRS open for the Aston Martin. But again, just not quite able to pull closer to that Mercedes car. Of course, it's going to be about a 2-second gap as they come to the end here. But just not quite able to make it work. Zercity and T34 now come down the back straight. Of course, the AlphaTauri going to be looking to make the move. Where will he go? Will he just hold in? Yes, he will. He will, again, just holding station as Zercity, just with enough downforce to be able to hold that position through these tighter, twistier sections of this Austin circuit, as our leader, Kevin Cal, does dive into the pit lane here at the start of lap number 13. So he'll be looking to go to those hard tires and potentially take these to the end. And he should be in a very good position to be able to finish this race, as his teammate Viperize will also dive in along with Alexis Beast. So Formula Jonah will stay out for another lap, so he'll be looking for the overcut here. But of course, there's the two cars into the pit lane. Did they get their timing right? It seems that they both did, as there's the Mercedes Zercity dives in the pit lane, but does receive a 5-second time penalty as T34 just behind him, so they'll continue to battle. Let's see, Mayhem Tomorrow stays out for another lap, so he'll keep that set of tires. But it is Formula Jonah with the net lead right now, but of course, having not pitted yet, will be under threat of Kevin Cal very shortly, but should have a clean lap here in the Aston Martin without battling anybody, which could be very beneficial to his race. Of course, his teammate James recovering from that earlier incident up in P6 behind Alexis Beast, who of course just pitted onto those fresh hard tires. Going to be all over the back of him for right now, but should be seeing him come into the pit lane fairly shortly to swap off onto a new set of hard compound tires, as penalties up and down the order right now. But Kevin Cal, again, just kind of holding that lead for right now, but of course very tight in this kind of mid-pack from Zukost all the way back to about Dodoligo is not separated by more than 2 seconds, so should see a good bit of battling, as we can see a little bit of a train going here as Kendrick's looking to chase down Zukost, as James does overtake Alexis Beast down this back straight, so I guess just using those kind of in temperature medium compound tires in order to overtake that Red Bull and potentially benefit his teammate Formula Jonah a little bit. through this twistier section. Of course, Jonah, we'll see if he comes into the pit lane this lap. He will, so it'll be really interesting to see where he pops out of the pit lane. Of course, with the pit limiter on right there as we start lap number 14, which will give Kevin Cal the lead back. Of course, Mayhem tomorrow going to be running for a little bit longer still, but still going to keep running. But going to be really interesting to see where does Jonah come out. He's out of that pit box and is in the slow roll down the pit lane. So where will he be released? He will be released, I believe, just ahead of his teammate, James. So looks to the inside, able to defend nicely for the moment. So seems to be very nice teamwork between the Aston Martins, at least for right now. Of course, as James may be able to tail rear gunner Jonah until he can get those tires into the correct operating condition, and it seems that's what he's doing a little bit. As the Red Bull of Alexis Beast, is he going to be able to make a move here through the S's? Not quite as James is able to defend, but that would have been a great move from Alexis Beast if he was able to pull that off. But great racing from the both of them, as we can see a few more time penalties coming in. But it will be forming Jonah up into fourth as Viperize able to overtake Mayhem tomorrow. Did he overtake him before he could get DRS, though, as the Red Bull of Lexus Beast a little bit wide there in the background. But Mayhem tomorrow looking back around the outside of Viperize. Will he be able to make the move stick even without DRS? As Viperize was able to make that move pass done before DRS was active. Not quite, as James and Formula Jonah now swap places now that Jonah has been able to light up those tires a little bit. But of course he's going to still be under threat from Alexis Beast here through Sector 3. Bunch battle still going on throughout the field. Of course, you got KevProd trying to pull away a little bit from Zukost. Zercity, after serving that penalty, dropped down to 13th. So KevProd now potentially released in order to potentially run after some of those cars in front. But of course, already low on ERS here on lap number 15. Of course, we got 13 laps to go, or 14 laps to go now, as Kevin Cal is on lap number 15, but it will be Viperize continuing to hold the advantage. James is going to stay out another lap and potentially just give his teammate a little bit of a tow as Jonah and Alexis Beast go side by side now through turn 1. The Red Bull looking around the outside. So that McLaren very tight. And the Red Bull around the outside of turn 1 is going to make that move stick down into turn 2 and is going to be able to hold P5. And can now go chasing after James and Viperize. We do have Zukost going into the pit lane. Of course, both the McLarens and the Alpines not having the greatest of days. Certainly going to be disappointing for those teams. But of course, anything could happen here with 14 laps to go, so definitely stay tuned. As we've got a bit of a four-way battle now going on here for third, as the Williams of Mayhem tomorrow seems to be struggling on those older tires. As here comes James on him. I believe the move not going to quite be done yet. Of course, the Williams, the two Aston Martins, and the Red Bull battling is going to be an advantage to this Mercedes 1-2 that's already going on. There's a little bit down the order. You got Kendricks and Jim battling. That's going to be a battle to keep an eye on as the AlphaTauri looks to fend off this charging Alpine. That's certainly going to be interesting to go ahead and see. And of course, KevProd going to be hoping that that battle slows them down nicely. And is going to bring him into the fight. And of course, T34 in the last of those point-scoring positions, just going to be looking to continue on pushing and secure that 1 point for AlphaTauri. Take a look at penalties as well. Could be something. It's something that's very important as of right now. Of course, Viperize and James both with 3-second time penalties right now, so they're in a bit of an equal battle with each other. But Alexis Beast, meanwhile, with a 9-second penalty, is Mayhem tomorrow. Did he have an incident there? No, he will dive into the pit lane for medium tires, but I thought he spun there for a second. But that will promote Viperize, James, and Alexis Beast up a place for now as we look at them. This train kind of continue to form down the back straight. Of course, James potentially just holding out for a safety car, but also looking to keep his teammate of Jonah in there, who got a very nice run out of those final couple of corners. So will Jonah potentially look to make a move into this final corner? Not quite, but he got a much better run there through turns number 8 and 9 than the Red Bull in front of him. Of course, this battle being very close here. And I realize that I'm starting to talk gibberish, but this race has been very, very close throughout the majority of it. So there's been plenty to talk about. Of course, as they battle here, as this is Jim, KevProd, and T34 battling now down the back straight. Jim not going to be able to quite make a push towards that AlphaTauri driver, and is just going to sit P7. But up at the front, leading pretty much the whole race, has been Kevin Cal. Of course, pitted earlier, a lap earlier than Jonas. Locks that lead for 1 lap and doesn't have the fastest lap, so it can't be. But starting from P3, just really benefited from that first lap incident between Crooner and Bamboo Vegas, and has really just been able to run away since that point. So it's been a very solid drive for the Mercedes as James comes into the pits for Aston Martin. So it's going to be interesting to see what tires he decides to switch to as he comes into the pit lane. What tires is that? Seems to be a bit of a slow stop for Aston Martin, if that looks correctly, but he will slap on those hard tires and go to the end of the race, which is going to be looking to pick up as many points as he can for Aston Martin, as here comes Mayhem Tomorrow out of the pit lane, and he's going to be able to overtake James, who will sit in that last point scoring position there in P10, as Dodoligo will also box there as well. But that will release Alexis to try and run away now from Jonah here for this final podium position, as it seems that this 1-2 finish for Mercedes seems to be in the books, at least for the moment. Of course, Jonah with the advantage on penalties, but still going to be looking to get that overtake done on track potentially, as it is Cersei and Fedora battling there. That's going to be something interesting to watch. But here's Hendricks and Jim. Of course, Jim reportedly with an incident with Speedy Gunner earlier on in this race. So, of course, penalties still could be applied here after the finish of this race, as we've seen more than one incident take place on track today. But that'll, of course, go to the stewards after the race finishes here at Austin. Of course, when this race is over, as we just have about 11 laps left to go as we begin lap number 18, be sure to go over and give the Group 1 race a watch, and potentially the Group 3 race just shortly after this one. It will be the debut of Group 3 here in LSR, as Jim does dive into the pit lane, so he'll drop off from that P5. Of course, looking to switch to probably medium tires here for the Williams. That'll, again, just leave Alexis Beast and Jonah to do battle on their own now. Of course, as they go chasing after the Silver Arrows out there in the distance. That'll, of course, promote a couple of other competitors into potentially scoring points. Of course, Bamboo Vegas started towards the front. And as we take a look at the position changes, some of the big gainers here, Kendricks for Alpha Tauri and Mayhem Tomorrow, both up 11 places, so very good races from those two drivers. T34 as well, up 8 positions from his starting spot, as well as Formula Jonah up 7, so a bunch of big gainers there, from 5th down to 8th place, or from 4th down to 8th place. And of course, Bamboo Vegas, our pole sitter, caught up on that first lap incident with Crooner. And Jim as well caught up in likely more than one incident, as they've dropped 11 and 9 places respectively. So frustrating races for them, but of course interesting to see that up and down the order. As we jump back up to Kevin Cal, as we just have about 10 laps to go now. Again, just seems to be very solid, lapping a little bit slower than his teammate Viperize, since they made the swap over to the hard tires. I believe that gap was at about 14 seconds when they pitted, but still just kind of in that race management mode as Dodoligo receives a time penalty, and there's the battle for 5th place continues to go, as Kevprod potentially looking to make a move on Kendricks. They're not quite going to be able to make that move stick, as he's pretty much out of ERS, whereas Kendricks doesn't have significantly much more, and slightly misses that apex, as we have McLaren spun there at the end of Sector 2. But of course, Alexis Beast with another time penalty there, so I believe that's up to 12 seconds. So now he could be at threat of Kendricks and Kevprod. That's an incident there at the end of the second sector, and I believe that is Fiery Vulcan. That is not Bamboo Vegas. I thought that was Bamboo there for a moment, but it is the Alpine of Fiery Vulcan, who just seems to be kind of struggling as of right now. Potentially an incident there where somebody got a little bit too aggressive, though just quite missed that. Of course, James and Mayhem Tomorrow battling. Of course, the Williams was looking up the inside now, of course, on that softer compound of tire, but it seems that the Aston Martin will hold the advantage right now in this battle for P8 as Fedora and Zersity with contact, and Zersity is into the wall now. What happened there? Was that was potentially some weird collision physics there between Fedora and Xerxes, but also could have just been somebody getting a little bit too aggressive up the inside there, and that is awful for both teams, as each of their teammates are already out of this race. Of course, no front wing on Xerxes or, I believe, Fedora's car. Of course, Xerxes continuing to battle there with Dodoligo. Of course, but Fedora, you can see that left part of the front wing is definitely gone. But that does promote, and as Mayhem Tomorrow and James battle side by side through that triple right-hander. So they're going to be battling for 8th place. Of course, that puts Bamboo Vegas, our pole sitter, back up into the point-scoring positions. And of course, here comes James on Mayhem Tomorrow, tucking into that slipstream. Going to be looking to go down the inside here into turn 1. Can he make the mistake later braking, so it's going to open up the cutback for Mayhem Tomorrow. Potentially a little bit of wheel banging as he looks now go around the outside of turn 2. James looking to stick it in there, potentially a little bit of contact as that car got a little bit loose, but Mayhem Tomorrow defending very, very nicely. So it's going to be the Williams continuing to hold that advantage as Fedora for Ferrari will retire from the session in the pit lane. So certainly a good bit of, certainly a decent showing from Fedora there early, and just going to be disappointing to end his LSR debut. But certainly will have a good showing for later on in the season. Of course, from the Jonah just kind of sticking with Alexis Beast, not being very, very aggressive, not trying to force a move there. As here comes James on Mayhem Tomorrow again, but that gap has increased a little bit, and Bamboo Vegas really closing that gap quickly, so those two could soon come under threat from the man who finished second last season. Of course, a lot of pace in the hands of that Alpine driver, so definitely going to be very interesting to see him battle for wins later on in the season, even if he hasn't really gotten the chance to here today in Austin. As they come through the final couple of corners, you can see James pulling closer now as the Red Bull of Alexis Beast has a spin at turn 1, so that's going to be very disappointing for the Red Bull, who's now is going to be really a threat to Kendricks and Kevprod of losing position on penalties. So that Red Bull going to have to really kick it up a gear if he wants to get any positions back. As it is Jim stealing fastest lap for the moment. Of course, sitting P11, so that point will not count as it stands. But if he can get up into that points, he will, as of right now, have that bonus point for fastest lap. But is Kevin Cal just kind of, again, holding very nicely up at the front here on lap number 21. Just going to be taking it nice and gently through these couple of corners, just being very careful, not using too much ERS. It will be the Mercedes with the lead. And just going to be looking to kind of control the race from here. Of course, his team just matching that pace of Viperize behind, who as well, a little bit more ERS usage, but certainly very respectable from him. As we look a little bit further down the order, and as this battle for 5th and 6th continue to goes on, as James and Mayhem Tomorrow battle. That's a little bit of wheel banging between the Williams and the Aston Martin. As contact again as James tries to look up the inside, and there's contact there again, and James just loses the back end and will lose the place there to Bamboo Vegas. So very tight, tense battling there. Potentially a little ambitious from James, but at the same time, I'm sure Mayhem could have given a little bit more space just from how it appeared from the camera angle that I had. Looking back up the order, it's Kevprod looking to go down the inside of Kendricks into turn 1. We saw this happen with James and Mayhem Tomorrow earlier, so can the Hats hold the position as they go through the tight, twisty Sector 1? It seems that he will for the moment as Jim goes a little bit faster on Bamboo Vegas, able to overtake Mayhem Tomorrow in just a similar way. We saw Kevprod just get Kendricks, so that's up in a P8 for the pole sitter. Oh, stuffy nose. Of course, he's not in the clear yet, as he's still going to have to get away from Mayhem, but seems that he'll be in a very solid spot to be able to run away as Xerxes with a time penalty. As Mayhem Tomorrow, did Mayhem Tomorrow spin? He has in Sector 2. Mayhem Tomorrow, after some great battling there with James, potentially just getting a little bit ambitious on the throttle, and is going to drop way down the order. We're just going to have to now deal with those overheated mediums, as we can see there. Just spins out through 8 and 9, so just bad to worse for the Williams. But again, another driver with a really, really strong showing Most certainly is going to be disappointed by that mistake. Certainly shouldn't give up. He's shown a lot of pace today, especially coming back from a little bit further down the order. As he spins again there, so just really struggling with those overheated mediums. Just going to have to give it time. Be really careful with trying to do a J-turn to get out of that. But looking back up to the battle as he does retire on track, as we do have Fiery Vulcan going up down the inside of Zukost. Can he make that move stick? He will for the moment. Of course, yellow flag in Sector 2 shouldn't cause any sort of incident as the McLaren and the Alfa Romeo get past that car, but it is Fiery Vulcan up into P12 for the moment. But a lot of battles really starting to spread out now. No real close battles on track, so we'll jump up to the leader of Kevin Cal. Still a yellow flag there as that Williams disappears, but that will be our 5th retirement from the session. Let's see the Mercedes here just coming down that back straight. Again, just very solid from this driver. Of course, looking to be cutting it a little bit close on fuel there. About quarter of a lap to the good. Of course, as we come to the line, it will be 5 laps to go, but a little bit of lag there for Kevin Cal. So hopefully that internet should be doing okay, but struggling a little bit, it seems. What's the time on penalties? That is a good question. So if you give me a second, as Formula Jonah has disconnected. So if you give me a second, I will try to get him back. So apologies for that briefly, and then I will get you updated on penalties. So let me try to get Jonah back in here if I could. So I'll go ahead and send that back to him to try to get him back in. But of course, with time penalties, it's 3 seconds for Viperize, so definitely enough time for Jonah to make up, but that'll certainly be interesting to watch. Alexis Beast with 12 seconds, so very much under threat from Kevprod and Kendricks. Did Viperize lag out? I don't believe so. I think we definitely had a little bit of lag going. Did you disconnect from the game? I still see you in here. And you do seem to be picking up time on Kevin Cal. So I don't believe you are. I believe Jonah might have. But I still see you in game, so you still should be okay. But again, taking a look at some more penalties. Yes, Viperize. I did see it was Jonah that lagged out. I did resend him an invite, hopefully, so let him know. So if you're in a voice chat with him, be sure to let him know so that hopefully we can get him back in. But of course, sitting P3 and is ghosted right there. So going to be definitely just kind of hoping that we can get him back into this race. But of course, 6 second time penalty for T34, so Bamboo Vegas right in the range for that. And then you got James in P9 with a 3 second penalty, and then Jim, of course, in P10. It is important to note that we also will have stewards' decisions, so these standings may not end up being final. And of course, as this is only as of right now, but certainly going to be a very interesting thing to consider as this race continues. Of course, hopefully we can get Jonah back in for the Aston Martin team, as he's had a really great race after having a little bit of a subpar qualifying, only qualifying 11th or 12th, as I can't fully remember, but has raced very solidly since that point. So let me see if I can get Jonah back in here. Of course, Jonah, if you're watching, I'll go ahead and invite you again real quick. Go ahead and do that. And again, hopefully we can get you back in. As there is Mayhem tomorrow. He is out of this race, though, so of course that is not a disconnect. So certainly, again, disappointing, especially from Ferrari with 2 DNFs and Alfa Romeo. But a couple of really great recovery drives. Of course, it's been an amazing day for the Mercedes team, sitting in a 1-2 at the moment. Of course, as we have just about 3.5 laps left to run here. But again, just a very solid showing here from Kevin Cal. Again, be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Of course, we're going to have 15 weeks of Group 1, 2, and 3 action here on LSR. If you're potentially interested in joining us, be sure to throw a comment down there in chat. Matt O'Toole, first time watching, did they keep the same teams through the season? So yes, for the large part, we do have the same teams throughout the season, so we'll have both a Drivers' and Constructors' Championship, which is why it has been such a great day for Mercedes. But of course, we do we do see the AlphaTauri swapping places due to a potential little incident. But yes, we do run same teams throughout the season, so that way we can have both a Drivers' and Constructors' Championship. But even if you haven't signed up for LSR as of yet, don't let that dissuade you from joining, as we do have a growing Group 3, and there's often 1 or 2 open seats just based on our full-time drivers not being able to make it, so you can jump right in and contribute to constructors' standings as well as your own driver's shot as a reserve driver. So if you're interested in joining, definitely put a comment in chat right now. I can definitely get you set up with a link as it stands right now. I believe that's Jonah, Jonah potentially not being able to rejoin the session, so hopefully he is still able to finish. I don't see why that would be much of an issue, as 3 laps to go here. Certainly completed enough of the race distance to be able to get full points, as you do see Bamboo Vegas there in the background working on Kendrick, so they're going to be looking to make that move done. But certainly, if you're interested in running an LSR, go ahead, as I'm not trying to say for the 3rd time, definitely look to throw a comment either in the comments of this video if you're watching it after the fact, or throw a comment in chat now, and we'd be happy to hook you up with a link and get you in one of these races and see you on streams in the future, as we do have Fiery Vulcan having an incident there in Sector 2. But it's still Kevin Cal with 2 laps to go now, just with a very solid and secure lead over his teammate. Matt O'Toole saying he's talking about we're all bad to start with. Of course, we have a lot of our tiers are based on just pace divisions, and of course the only way you can really get better is by continuing to racing. And Xercity is first to be lapped here for Alfa Romeo, having an incident there in Sector 2 and losing that front wing. But we'd certainly be happy to have you just as a racer, even if you want to jump in every once in a while. Of course, whether that's Group 2 or Group 3, it's your call, but that's fully up to you. I believe that's Bamboo Vegas able to overtake T34 down into turn number 1 as yellow flag in Sector 2 is for one of the McLarens. I believe that is Oreo African as Viper Eyes moving into fuel-saving mode, so he's potentially under threat. I do think we will have post-race interviews for the top 3 at the end of this race. Certainly would be very interested to hear from Kevin Cal and Viper Eyes as to what happened as Bamboo Vegas moves up into P6. So again, a great recovery drive from the Alpine. Of course, our pole sitter today caught up on that lap 1 incident with Crooner, who was not able to finish from it, but certainly going to be disappointing for him. But still a very solid showing, as we can see Kevin Cal coming to the line to start the final lap of the race, as T34 and James continue to battle a little bit as they battle through this 3rd sector, of course going into that triple right-hander, so that's going to be a battle, or as they go into Sector 2, rather, as Mango late to the party. I think he just had his power turned back on, if I had to guess. But certainly good to see you, Mango. Of course, Mango being one of our Group 1 drivers. But jumping up with Kevin to just sit on board on this final lap of the race. Again, very, very calm from Kevin. Potentially could have been put under threat from Viper Eyes. But Viper Eyes, just with an incident with Alexis Beast earlier on in this race, has just put him in the clear. 14 seconds clear up here at the front as Mango's power is back on. Of course, very much an international league as well. We're very much not region restricted, as we have as far away as California, Sweden, and South Africa all participating in this league, so definitely don't let your location determine whether you want to join or not, as we're already a pretty international league, which is definitely a cool thing to be a part of, as we see Kevin Cal coming into this triple right-hander now, coming into these final couple corners of this race. So it's been a very, very stellar drive from Kevin Cal for Mercedes. He's led since lap 1 with the exception of that pit stop phase, and as he comes around the final corner, it will be Kevin Cal winning in his debut for Group 2 for Mercedes here in Austin, Texas. So great drive from him. Of course, his teammate Viperize coming around the final couple of corners now will finish P2, so it will be a Mercedes 1-2 here in the opening round. So a good race from Viperize. Of course, Formula Jonah coming to the line now. His after DCing with about 5 laps to go, he will remain in third and on the podium here for Aston Martin, and it will be Alexis Beast fourth for Red Bull. Kevprod will now come to the line to finish fourth, actually, after Alexis Beast's penalties are applied. So that'll be certainly interesting to see where Bamboo Vegas finishes. Can he get close? Just short of finishing P5, as it will be James in 7th and T34 in P8, or actually Kendrick's P8, so it's a P8-9 finish for the AlphaTauri team. Of course, you got Jim coming to the line now in 10th as it stands, as well as that fastest lap. Dodolio in 11th, Zukost in 12th. As he comes through the final couple of corners now for McLaren, Fiery Vulcan will come to the line to finish 13th, but it is a victory for Kevin Cal. So a great showing from him, a great showing from Mercedes, and certainly a race that they can be very, very proud of here on this Sunday afternoon. Or evening. So certainly you can see Kevin celebrating there, and of course I'll see if I can pull Kevin, James, and Viperize all into a party, as I'll go ahead and get that set up now. Just as soon as we watch the Mercedes driver come through the tunnel now, up to the podium, and there's the Mercedes 1-2, who's right there. So congratulations to all three of those drivers, as well as I failed to miss who was driver of the day there. It may have been Jim, though I'm not quite sure. But certainly a very chaotic race, but it will be celebrated by Mercedes. So very, very solid showing. And if you'll give me a minute, I will see if I can get them into this chat. So let's see. Alright, so go ahead and get this going. And I will invite them. But it is the American Kevin Cal winning from P3 on the grid, with Viperize finishing second. Formula Jonah will finish third for Aston Martin, and Kevprod finishing fourth from Alexis Beast. Bamboo Vegas then finishes in P6 with James in 7th. Kendricks in 8th on debut finishes ahead of T34, his teammate. So good showings from the AlphaTauri team after they started 15th and 16th. It's T34 in 9th with the suite of Jim and Dodolio. I'm 10th and 11th, of course. Jim getting that bonus point as of right now. Zukost finishes 12th, with Fiery Vulcan finishing in 13th. And then, of course, you have African and Xercity both finishing a lap down after incidents earlier in the race. And then your non-finishers of Mayhem Tomorrow, Fedora, Speedy Gunner, Omega, and Crooner. So let's see. I will go ahead and ping the fine gentlemen to try and get them into the commentary box here for interviews. Let's see. Oh, wait. Nope, that's the wrong chat. Well, it seems that we're starting this with a little bit of technical difficulties, and we're ending it with a little bit of technical difficulties, as I do not know how to type. Alright, there we go. So I'll see if I can get them pulled in real quick, as we do have our winner of Kevin Cal here in chat. Of course, Kevin led from fairly early on in the race and just kind of really drove your own race there, but a very good showing regardless. And want to give a quick word on that race for you?
Hey, Vacant. Yeah, man, that was crazy. Like, right at the start, I got a better launch than Crooner, and man, he just lost it. And that was too bad. But yeah, I had a clear track the whole race, so easy going for me. And got lucky, no safety cars.
But of course, a good drive regardless. I know from the broadcast camera, didn't quite have a good angle of how that incident on lap 1 took place between those two drivers that did start ahead of you, of Bamboo Vegas and Crooner. I don't know if you could expand on what happened there a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. So Crooner is on no traction control, and I'm on full TC. I definitely got a better launch than him, and I was right up on him. And then I think he might have panicked slightly, and he lost it under acceleration, like shifting gears, and he just lost it, and his car churned left on him, and I knew that was going to cause chaos behind, but yeah, he lost it on the launch, the drive up to the turn 1, unfortunately. Yeah. So I no contact between me and Crooner, that's for sure.
Of course, very disappointing for those two front runners, but of course, making the best of it there from you. And of course, you're starting this season off with a Mercedes 1-2 with your teammate Viperize, finishing there in second. So very good showing from the both of you.
For sure, yeah. Yeah, I actually talked Viperize into switching to full traction control.
Certainly going to be very interesting to see how the two of you continue throughout the season. But I'll let you go at this point. And again, congratulations on winning the season opener here at Circuit of the Americas.
Thanks, Vacant. Yeah, it was great feeling to win that race.
All right, have a good one. Let's see. Go ahead and start one with Formula Jonah here real quick. So we'll give him a couple of seconds to get in here. So we'll hear from the man in P3 before we go over and get the opinions of Viperize. So we'll get the P2 last. So we'll go 1-3-2 here to finish out today. So we'll just give it a couple of seconds. But of course, great to hear from the race winner. Let's see. Go ahead and add the man. He is already added, so I don't know if you can add that or not, Jonah. Also invite Viperize, see if I can get him into this one, just in case. We're having a little bit more technical difficulties on that front. So let me see if I can pull him in. Go ahead and add Viperize. As well as there is Jonah. Of course, Jonah, third place finish from you for Aston Martin. Potentially a little bit of a disappointing qualifying and a little bit nerve-wracking there at the end after the late disconnect there. But certainly an overall good race for you.
Yeah, it was a pretty good race. Really happy with how things went. During qualifying, I felt like we had some really strong pace, me and James. So I was happy to be there, and I was a little frustrated because right at the end I was on probably the best lap of my life, and I validated the final corner and would have had a 134.2, which would have put me, I think, 5th or 6th. So it was a little unfortunate to start 11th, but the main thing was that I wanted to try and avoid turn 1 and just keep it clean and keep clean with the rest of the drivers, and the main part of it was that I just wanted to have a fun race, and I think that everybody at Group 2 had a good one, I'm sure. And Viperize, you in chat here, and me and Alexis had a great battle there. It was so fun, and I'm just so happy to have LSR back on the grid and just be back and able to fight for podium and be able to be in a podium position once again. So, yeah. Yeah,
of course, there were a bunch of good battles up and down the grid. A large part of that being your battle, being a battle there with the battles there with Alexis Beast and Viperize. Of course, your teammate James getting a little bit unlucky earlier, but still a double points finish for Aston Martin. So it's certainly going to be looking good for you as a team.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're going to be like second maybe in the championship because Mercedes had the 1-2. But yeah, it definitely shows that we got some pace for the whole season, for the remaining 14 rounds, and just kind of excited to get this season underway. So Yeah, it's been a great one, and just excited to see that LSR is back, and Group 2 had such a strong showing in terms of racing and commentary, and it's hard to believe because in Season 3 we had 9 members join the Group 2 race because we didn't have as many people join. And to see a full grid and amazing commentary by you as well, Vacant, it's been just great. So awesome to see that we have a second division up and running, and it's got such a great turnout.
Yeah, thank you for that, and I'll let you go, and definitely congratulations, and looking forward to seeing you next week at Bahrain.
Thank you so much. Goodbye.
See ya. And then, of course, Viperize finishing P2, also here in chat. Of course, a 1-2 for Mercedes, so very good result from you as a team. Of course, great to see. Of course, going to be looking to continue that throughout the season. Of course, you had some great battles going on there with Jonah and Alexis Beast throughout that race. I'm going to speak to those a little bit. All right, well, awesome. Well, yeah, thank you for that. Again, congratulations to both of you on the second place finish, as well as to Mercedes on that 1-2. And then thank you. And then with that out of the way, thank you all for joining here for LSR Group 2. Definitely stay tuned because I believe we will have a Group 3 stream that I may be commentating again. But yeah, thank you for joining. Have a great rest of your day. And signing off for now.